what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down, whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Well. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'.
Hi, Mom.
Welcome to show number 225.
Why haven't they stopped us yet?
No one has stepped in.
That's officially halfway to 300, right?
It's an old joke that goes way back, and it's not even very funny, which is, I think, why we continue to, keep recycling it. So welcome. It's show number 225. We have Highway Vodka in the house today, and Highway Vodka is hemp vodka, which we will explain, and we'll even talk vodka cocktails as the program goes on. But our special guests are from Highway Vodka, and we are thrilled to have you guys here. Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, I'm Ben Williams, the co-founder. And
I'm Cody Robbins Fuller, the lead distiller and general manager.
Now, Cody, did you start out with a hyphenated name?
No.
Cody Robbins Fuller, right?
Yeah, I got married December of 2020. So
okay, so I thought, well, congratulations.
Thank you. 19. Sorry.
When I saw Cody Robbins Fuller written out, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a wide receiver for the Steelers.
I have to look into that. Somebody's stealing my name.
I don't know if it is, but there's so many hyphenated names now in football.
Right.
It's my favorite still being Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know what that's all about, but it's.
Wow.
Did you ever see that Key and Peele skit where they have all the football names?
Oh no, I didn't. But I'm sure that was hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious.
That's those guys are so awesome. Well, welcome to the show. It's Smokin' and Toastin'. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. This is, as I said, show number 225. My name is Cruze. My partner is Ian. Adam is our producer on the Wheels of Steel, and we are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers, hoodies, sweatshirts, T-shirts, and all starting under $20, which is really cool. Great for cigar lovers, and they are a sponsor of the show, so we encourage you to help them out since they help us out. It's MyCigarShirts.com because cigars, yes. Before we get started, big thanks to Docs and Bex from Plantation Rum, who were our guests
they were a blast
last week, and were so much fun. I'm excited to have Bex back when Docs doesn't suck up all the air in the room and allows her to speak for a little while. But he, Docs has always been one of our favorite guests, and so it's a pleasure to have him back. And Bex is new with Plantation, so it was awesome to meet her too. So a lot to do, a lot to talk about today. Vodka, of course. We'll get into how and why you would use hemp and your preparation and your distillation of vodka. And we'll talk about some pretty important things, because Highway Vodka is from here in our home city of Houston. So It's really exciting for me, and I know for you as well, to see not only the explosion in craft brewing that's taken place in this city across the last 5 years, but what has followed pretty quickly after that is a real explosion in some high quality distilled spirits.
Yes.
And it's so craft oriented, and that just makes me happy on a personal level. You know what I mean? Because we can go out and buy the big names, but it's so cool thinking of somebody as putting almost like this handcrafted vibe to what they're doing.
It just feels good to expand the list of local heroes.
It does, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
People doing it.
And the show obviously is heard all over the country and all over the world, and we do our best to try to touch, craft distilleries and craft breweries and things from everywhere. But obviously, if they're here in our town in Houston, they can bring the stuff in with them.
That's right.
So this is a pretty important element. So we are excited about it. Also on today's show, we'll be sampling some, I think, very interesting brews in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Fair State Brewing Co-op has teamed up with Schell's Beer, and they have produced something called Union Lager. Haven't tasted this, but we've had so many good pilsners and lagers over the past several weeks that we're kind of on a lager roll here. So
I'm really enjoying enjoying that actually. It's
Yeah.
been for the longest time with craft beer, it was all about IPAs.
Yeah, and
I'm glad
ales
that
of a lot of sorts. Yeah,
and IPAs are okay, but I'm glad that phase is a little bit past, and now we're starting to get into more craftier styles that aren't even way outside, but some of those really approachable styles.
well, and I love when you can have a Pilsner lager and it's got this extra element of flavor because you've got a master brewer that really, isn't trying to make it taste like every other Budweiser that rolls out. I told you about that movie that I watched, right?
Yeah,
where they have this whole competition among all the Budweiser master brewers around the world, and the competition's not to see who can make the best beer. The competition's to see who can make the one that tastes most like what Budweiser is supposed to taste like, and it's an amazing.
What is
It's on
that?
Amazon Prime. I'll look it up and tell you before the end of the show.
definitely
It's definitely worth watching. It's fascinating how big a deal it is to them. I mean, they take it very seriously, the same way you would expect that. The
Budweiser's
guys at
gotta
St.
be
Arnold's
Budweiser.
are taking their crafting of great flavor beers, but their whole goal is to make the most Budweiser they can make, and they have all these crazy testing
what about the
things.
guy who gets discounted because it has a little too much
Yeah,
flavor?
yeah. Sorry,
This
is
What?
delicious. You lose.
No.
but it's a great watch, and it will actually tell you a little something about how big beer does things. So it's fascinating, and I really enjoyed
it.
watching
It reminds me of what was that Penelope Spears movie, The Decline of Western Civilization?
Yes.
When her comment when she goes to interview Chris Holmes, who's just drunk in the pool with his mom sitting poolside, right?
Yes.
She goes, "I left that interview and I realized that I had nothing." And then when I rewatched it, I realized I had pretty much everything.
Yeah.
That kind of movie is that
Yes.
right there.
No, you're absolutely right. When you first watched, at first I was just kind of taken aback. I was like, I can't believe they do this. And then the more I watched it, the more sense it made. Yes, they do, because that's what their thing is about.
the Budweiser beer
they want to
culture.
be consistent. They want you to open a Budweiser in Minneapolis today and one in Los Angeles next year and have those taste
exactly
exactly
There's
the
an
same.
admirable thing to that. I mean,
Yeah.
McDonald's does that too.
Yep,
You
absolutely.
know, like you should be able to go over to Danheim and have the same.
Right. And-
Even though they'll call it a different name, like the Burger Royale versus whatever, but you want that
All right,
burger
now
to be
we're
exactly
getting
the
into a
same,
whole
right?
other movie.
And that is
Right.
for people who love
That was a great
McDonald's.
movie too.
Yeah, that
Great
was a great
movie.
movie. I just saw that scene again in one of those top 10 Watch Mojo videos I was
great
watching.
scene.
Oh, that scene is so good. Samuel L. Jackson. I swear he could read anything and I would listen.
Sure.
He is just him and Morgan Freeman, who by the way is perfectly cast as God in the Lego movie. Because that's what his voice is. That's what his voice brings to mind. It's just perfect. Anyway, so we'll do the Pilsner. I got sidetracked. You mentioned IPAs. A new brewery, or new to me. I don't know if you know of these guys. Do you know of B52 Brewing in
I have heard
in
of, but I
Conroe?
haven't. I don't think I've tried anything of those.
All right, so this will be the first time we've tried this. It's their phased out black IPA, which should be interesting. And then from an old favorite, Anchorage Brewing Company in
I love
Anchorage, Alaska,
Anchorage.
we'll be trying their Tired But Wired Imperial Stout. So
I haven't tried that. Don't they make? They do the narwhal. No, that's Alaskan.
that's right, and it's easy to get those two confused,
Right.
Because Alaskan makes great beer too.
Yeah.
But Anchorage is they really do, in addition to doing a whole like series, they do like a different IPA every other week, I think.
Right.
But in addition to that, they do a lot of these stouts and these
Mm-hmm.
specialty brews and things to save. So we'll be getting into all of that, and I'm really looking forward to it. We'll have drinking news today. I see you brought the ukulele.
I
So,
did bring the ukulele.
so we're in good shape. Drinking news is our segment here on the show, which is where we share a story that may or may not be about drinking, but is always probably the most enjoyable to hear if you've been drinking. Today's drinking news teaser headline is, "That's no way to treat a lady."
Uh-oh.
Oh, what was that?
Whoa.
What was that?
That was my finger getting caught in the string.
That reminded me of an old Bugs Bunny cartoon. And of course, Cocktails with Highway Vodka today. We will tell you a few things that are going on in the news, and if we have time, we'll explain beer goggles.
Beer goggles.
Yep. How they work, where they came from, and where the saying originated. Beer goggles explained on today's Smoking and
I
Toasting.
love that.
So a lot to look forward to. I want to thank you guys for coming in from Highway Vodka, and we want to talk a little more about your vodka and stuff in the next segment. But a couple of opening questions. When did Highway Vodka come onto the scene? When did you distill your first bottle for sale?
Oh, for sale.
Yeah.
Late February of 2019.
But you've been doing it, I guess, for a
like
while.
8 years.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what did you do with did you, like family and friends? Like,
Yeah, that was
who
it.
got it before then? Really?
Yeah, that was it. We were just, as a hobby, her dad and myself would sit in his horse barn and just run stuff just
I
for
love
fun,
stories like that.
And it literally just was that. And then we owned a couple bars and restaurants, so we'd take them and let our regulars try the stuff, let friends and family try stuff, and people started liking it. And then we started doing like our own little like Pepsi challenge, like blind, like whatever your favorite brand is, and and just kept consistently winning. And so we just decided, like, hey, let's make a go at it. And we are.
I don't want to go off on a tangent, but you mentioned owning restaurants. A restaurant that I believe you used to own.
Correct.
I had one of like the most amazing meals of my life at Lucille's.
Yes. That's
Oh
it. Yep.
my
Lucille's
God,
is the
that
best.
food is
That's
good.
right.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where you go in and you can tell when you walk in that it's gonna be good, and then it's even better
Yep.
than you were expecting. It's that kind of place. But what are those biscuits? Those
Chili
the
biscuits.
chili biscuits.
Yes.
That's like my great grandmother's. That was her signature thing, and like she actually used to cater American Airlines with those back in the
no
day.
kidding. Wow.
And the funny
Airline
story,
food has gone way down.
Way, right?
it's way, down.
downhill.
And the funny part about the chili biscuits is that so my brother, that was my partner. We opened up the restaurant, and he's the chef, and so he had to get approval to make the chili biscuits. So the only person in my family that could still make them from scratch was my aunt, my mom's mother, and so my mom's sister, and so he had to go over there and work with her for about 2 weeks until she signed off. Like, okay,
These are good
yeah,
enough.
that's how
right?
you do it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to her because
Yeah.
Hey, if you're
that
representing the
alone is
family,
reason to go to
Yeah.
Lucille's.
if you're representing the family, you got to get it right.
Right.
that's-
Has
that's
to
for
be
sure.
You
right.
have to.
That's for
it was
sure.
a thing. It was a total
So
thing.
when you were distilling in the barn, was it all? Did you always have hemp involved in the process, or
No.
did that come later?
It actually came like about 2 years after messing around with all different types of grain bills and stuff, and we kind of started settling in on corn because we were just having the most success with corn. Then a buddy of mine opened a dispensary in California, and I went out there to mess with him for a little while, and he introduced me to some friends that were doing some distilling with like marijuana and stuff. So I was looking at what they did and like noticing some of the things that were happening during the fermentation period and stuff like that I wanted to try when we got home. So we got home, we started just buying any parts of the plant that we could get here, and it was all hemp. And so ended up settling on hemp seed because it was actually the easiest thing to get. And then we started doing crazy stuff. We'd toast it. Just doing whatever, 'cause
Trying
it was
different
just-
things.
I bet your
Yeah.
neighbors love the smell.
Well, I tell you, my wife and his wife too used to have problems because like when we were just cooking stuff up on the stove at home, and then we'd have those fermenters
shaking
going
her
in the
Pot
house.
was huge.
Yeah, and then those fermenters are sitting like in a corner. You try your best to park it in a dark corner in your house, but
Yeah.
your whole house will start to have that smell of.
I mean, it smells pretty good though.
I was
So.
gonna that, to me, that's one of those smells that you either love it or you don't. Like,
Yeah,
it's-
my wife
you're either
don't.
like,
Really?
yeah, or like,
I love it.
They
yeah.
thought it was. She thought it was something so weird smelling.
But
yeah.
there's no CBD in what makes it into the vodka. Is that right?
No, because at the end of the day, it's packaged in clear glass, so any CBD would be killed by the UV lights anyway. But
Okay.
that's not why we use.
That's
hemp.
not what your purpose was, right?
Right. No,
Yeah.
no. It's all about like what the plant does for the process, right? So, when we just start with nothing but hemp, corn, and water. Cook that up, put it in a fermenter. So the hemp acts as like a super nutrient for yeast. So our yields started getting larger. That was the first thing that we started
Interesting.
noticing.
Yeah. It's like the miracle substance.
It is.
basically.
It can do a lot of stuff.
It has
I
a lot of
mean,
nutrients.
So that part we noticed that it was getting our yields larger. Then from there, the oils that form in the fermentation period, like there's a thick layer of oil that sits on top, and it looks really disgusting, but it looks like oatmeal with olive oil on top, kind of. But
It does.
so yeah, we used to like rack the liquid off in between the oil because it just looked so weird. But one day, just being lazy, we just were like, just throw it all in there. The grain, the liquid, the oil, and that was the best batch that
was the
we'd
best
ever
batch. Those wonderful happy accidents,
Yep,
right?
Right.
exactly. That was
Love that.
totally a lazy accident.
If I were a distiller or a brewer, that would be the only thing I did. Did this
Right.
one work? No. Okay, I'll try something else next time.
Right,
you know,
right.
it'd just be like maybe I would stumble across something.
upon
it,
right.
Yeah. I mean, now you do home brewing though, so you understand a little bit of what has to happen. Right?
I do on occasion, and I'm lazy. It's the lazy thing, right? So I'm lazy too. So I generally don't even do secondary. Like you generally put it in your carboy to ferment, and then once it's done, you go into a vessel, and then a lot of times let it sit for a while, and then you go into a secondary vessel, and that helps with the clarity. I never do that. I just go straight in.
yeah.
I just don't drain it down until I'm picking up the trub. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
I
it
had
gets
a
little
hard
weird.
time with brewing. It's very unforgiving.
So do you
brewing.
find distilling to not be as difficult as brewing?
Honestly, for me, it was. Because, I mean, it was like the hobbies came on at the same time. So I obviously had picked up a home brewing kit, too. And I just couldn't get into it because it was like, you let that sit one day too long, it's over, for that batch. And that's what I was finding.
This reminds me, by the way, we've talked about this, but we've never done it, and we need to bring this back onto the table. We need to invite listeners and viewers who are home brewers to
Done.
bring all their best, their best
that
beer
would be cool.
to one show, and we'll do a blind taste
That'd
test
be
and declare
fun.
the Smoking and Toasting homebrew winner.
I used to like
I'll
tasting
make
that
it
stuff
happen.
at DeFalco's. Remember DeFalco's?
Yeah.
They used to have that little section with the stuff in there.
Yeah.
Because that's
Well,
where
yeah.
we would
Anytime
get
you
all
go
that
in there
stuff.
shopping, they usually had a few beers on tap.
Exactly.
That
Yep.
were like
That's
either
cool.
their
Yep.
recipes or whatever. So you'd
But-
walk in and have a beer while you shop.
And I know
Yeah.
I've read about some craft breweries that actually invite home brewers to submit things, and if they like them, they'll put those on tap.
Yeah, and there's
as
places
well
that'll
Very
do
for a limited time.
pro-am co-ops and
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that are kind of neat.
Fun stuff. Well, we have a lot to get into. I want to ask you guys a little bit more about the process and how the hemp gets involved. We want to do some tasting. We're going to talk cigars, but we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back when we return. Ian, you can talk about what you smoked this week.
Sounds good to me.
All right, and we'll get started tasting some highway vodka. We've tasted this before, but I'm still very excited. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting, the amazing music of the Suffers. I'm so ready for us to go back out and see live music again, aren't you?
Yes.
And I miss it so bad. It's getting close. It's getting close. I can feel it. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Great stuff on the web for cigar fans and people who love them. Check them out at MyCigarShirts.com because...
Cigars.
Yep. Ian,
I like that.
I got to share this with you. So you know that when the pandemic hit, they put some different restrictions on flying. Obviously, you got to wear a mask. I think that at some point, some airlines may be likely to require you to be vaccinated in order to fly. At least I know internationally that's going to be a factor for at least some airlines once the vaccine is a little more universally distributed. But one of the things they did, and I understand why they did it, but I was still really bummed, was they stopped serving drinks on the flights.
yeah. Yep.
Now I get it. It's because you want people to leave their masks on and not have them off and go, well, I'm having a drink or whatever. But there's been a great response to this in Seattle, Washington, where an airport bar has opened up that is the first airport shot bar.
Wow.
It's a walk-up bar. They serve window customers. You have to consume your shot at the counter. But think about it. If you're going to be on that long flight from Seattle down to Dallas, Fort Worth, or Houston, you can
Time it just right.
You can time it just right. You could down a
Makes
couple and
sense.
then make it onto the plane, and
For sure.
that way you're not like watching for the drink cart. The same because there is no drink cart anymore. So if you're in Seattle, be sure to check it out at the Seattle Tacoma International Airport, and apparently they are doing a bang up business so far. So,
bet.
it
makes total sense.
Cool.
Yeah, just to let you know. Well, we are on show number 225. Our guests are here from Cody and Dan from Highway Vodka. We are thrilled to have you guys on the show. We want to do some tasting in this segment, but first, I have been very negligent in getting to Ian and asking him, did you smoke anything interesting this week?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Oh, you wanted more information?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you'd be forthcoming.
I, on recommendation from one of the guys up at Casa de Monte Cristo, I picked up a warped La Colmena.
Now, you did a warped recently,
I
didn't
did.
you?
I did.
Yeah.
I think that's what spawned it. Is I was talking to him about, I'm going to review this on the show, and he goes, have you tried this one? This is the priciest cigar that Warped makes.
Okay.
So it's kind of an interesting thing because they don't make a lot of pricey cigars. They're all in the 6 to
Right, 6 to 10,
ish
right.
range, and I've really enjoyed all their cigars. This is the La Colmena. This was the Reina 6x48 is what they call that size. It's Ecuador wrapper, Ecuador binder, Dominican, and Nicaraguan filler. The appearance on this, light brown, almost tan, smooth with very few veins, single band, firm feel overall. Nice looking cigar. Very, very simple.
I'm
the
looking at it
band,
now. Yeah, it looks great.
yeah, the band has, La Colmena means the beehive.
Oh,
and the
okay.
band is like a little honeycomb,
Nice.
artistic honeycomb, I think. The pre-light sniff on this, light, earthy, sweet, smelling a little bit, baking spices, a little bit of clove I kind of detected in there. The pre-light draw was a little tight at first, but it was a closed foot, so as soon as I lit it,
I had the same thing on
it
mine.
opened right up, into a medium draw.
First draw, I was like, uh-oh, and then I realized, it's one of those closed, shaggy
Close,
foots.
right. Let's see, the pre-light draw, draw got earth and hay, leather, touch of sweetness, nice little tingle on the lips. It was really nice. Sometimes the tobacco will leave that. The initial light on this, burst of spicy hay and tangy leather, fresh cut wood, retrohale had pepper and a hint of spice. The first third of this settles into spicy sweetness with some baking spices, toast, and cedar round out the palate. Retrohale is spicy and slightly sweet. Perfect burn, solid ash. The construction on this cigar was awesome. The second third of this, cedar tanginess on the lips, toast, and a bit of cocoa reveal themselves.
Nice.
Cedar, leather, and pepper backbone, solid ash, perfect burn. The last third of the cigar, sweet, creamy wood and leather with a slight coffee and cocoa going on. Toast with pepper remains strong. Overall medium strength, solid ash, perfect burn from beginning to end of this thing. So,
I'm hungry.
price to quality.
Yeah?
Four.
Okay, so how expensive was it?
Price to quality is a 4. And the reason I get a 4 is, you guys, the price to quality is a 1 to 10 scale. If you rate it at 5, you get exactly what you're paying for. You rate
It's
it above
a
it.
5, you're like, wow,
You're
I wouldn't
punching
have
above
been,
your weight
I wouldn't have been
class.
upset if this had been a little more.
Right.
I rated it as a 4, not because the cigar itself, but it was $16.
See, that's a lot.
And that's a lot for a cigar. That's a super premium.
To me, when you go above
this-
12, it needs to, knock your socks
and this
off, right?
cigar was great, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't $16 to me.
Right.
At $12, this would have gotten a beautiful rating. I think,
yeah, absolutely.
At $10, even more amazing. And I don't want to get down on Warp making a super premium cigar, because it was a good cigar, but I think it's a little outside of its price range.
When you
And-
consider it 16, you
$16,
could have had
I could have had
two
a
Bella
Plasencia
Artes or Plasencia or
at
something.
$2 more,
Right.
or I'm stepping into Davidoff territory after that.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
come on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want it to be that kind of amazing. And it wasn't a knock your socks off cigar, but it was good.
You wonder at the Davidoff store if the guy goes home at the end of the day, the store manager and his wife says, so how'd the store do today? And he goes, oh, it was great. We sold a cigar.
But it was a Davidoff, so it's okay.
Their cigars are really expensive. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So, well,
So, yeah, and then...
so
and,
a 4.
Yeah, so 4. And then the only other thing I tell you is the pepper in the background, it gets a little distracting sometimes. It's because it's not too much pepper, but it's kind of a kind of a distracting kind of pepper, if that
Okay,
makes any sense.
I understand.
But overall, good cigar. You know,
Yeah,
if it was
all right.
$10 or $12, I'd buy more.
I got you. All right. Well, I had an interesting one. I went a different direction. I zagged this week, if you will,
Right.
and I decided to try the Kristoff Ligero Maduro Torpedo. And so this is it was an absolutely beautiful cigar. I was really excited about smoking it. I hadn't had a Kristoff cigar in quite some time, so I had picked this one up, and it was sitting in the humidor, and it's just super dark. It was a Brazilian Maduro wrapper. It also had Dominican binder, and the filler tobacco was from the Dominican Republic and from Honduras.
I smoked one of these on Tuesday, just so you know.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if our experiences were similar. The pre-light on this was all leather. It was kind of that comforting aroma of like a saddle or an old belt, something where you just smell it and just, it's just such a home kind of a smell.
High-end
right?
furniture store.
Yeah, right, exactly. I was expecting Mattress Mac to appear and tell me where I could sleep until the storm was over. Anyway, I used cigar scissors to cut the tip, and it had a closed, shaggy foot. I lit that with a torch. I love when it's cigar time. The Kristoff started out strong.
Yeah.
Real strong. A burst of spice, including pepper, but it was a little bit different than the sort of pepper flavor that I'm used to from the Nicaraguan cigars that I enjoy so much. A little more of a dense black pepper vibe, I guess, is the best way I can think of to describe it. And the Kristoff let me know right off the bat that strength-wise, it was not fooling around. This was a seriously full cigar. There were notes of chocolate and espresso that kind of weaved their way through the pepper as I smoked the first third. Burn was nice and straight once the shaggy foot was gone. Second third brought in some earthiness, kind of a dried cherry flavor that was really nice. Deep and rich flavors dominated pretty much throughout the whole cigar. The burn wasn't razor straight, but there were no problems. It was great all the way through. Final third ramped up in strength even more. I couldn't believe it. And the pepper still dominated, but there were strong flavors of dark espresso all the way to the end, very coffee espresso type of flavors, and a hint of dark mint that I got on the retrohale, which was kind of interesting. Most notable thing about the Kristoff Ligero Maduro Torpedo was the Ligero tobacco itself. Ligero comes from the top leaves of the tobacco plant, and it's usually rolled into the very center of the cigar for two reasons. One is because it's stronger. It has a stronger aroma and bite to it, and also because it can burn a little slower, so they want it in the center so the cigar still burns well. There were no burn problems at all with the cigar, but it clearly had a lot of Ligero tobacco in it. It was very full-bodied from beginning to end. Reminded me of a La Flor Dominicana a chisel or a diesel cigar. Delicious, but you have to be ready for this one.
Not Fisher Price my first cigar.
Definitely not. Smoke time was a little over an hour. I really enjoyed it, but it was a knockout punch, which I was kind of ready for, so it sort of fit perfectly. Kristoff's a $9 to $10 cigar. Price to quality, I would give it a solid 5. I enjoyed it, and I would definitely smoke it again. It's one of those. I think I always want to have one of those in my humidor for when I'm in the mood.
For when you're in the mood for that big
kind of a smoke. So so highly recommended. Be sure to check it out. Well, Smoking and Toasting is now at episode number 225. So we're like halfway to 300.
Yes.
Basically. And it's an exciting show for us today because we've got our friends from Highway Vodka in here. But before we sample vodka, we're going to make them drink some beer. So,
Let's do it.
We got to warm up the palate.
Yeah, that's right. So this is, I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. This is a co-op, if you will. Well, there's the Fair State Brewing Co-op is based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Schell's beer is in Ulm, Minnesota, which is hard to say, but apparently a good place to drink. And so these guys got together. This was a collaboration, and they worked together on this lager. Yep, got Adams. I think we're all good. All right, so Ian, I'm very curious to see if we keep our string of amazing lagers alive.
Let's see what
here.
the label says.
All
It
right.
says, according to the Surgeon General, women should. Oh, sorry. I keep doing this over and over again.
That joke gets old to everyone but me. I still laugh every time.
A collaboration with Schell's beer inspired by our respective union workforces and the crispy golden lagers of Dortmund, Germany.
I was going to say, on the nose, this makes me think of a German or Belgian lager for sure.
Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to hold this up to the camera.
It's a really clean packaging.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
really, really nice looking, clean packaging on here. It just has an oval, says Union Lager beer, and has a pint glass with a handshake in front of it. I have to describe this because I have some friends, Josh, who only listen to the show and don't
on
actually
audio.
watch
Right.
it. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that
Right.
that do the audio version. They're
I know, but
driving
I
or
like to
whatever.
tease him
Yeah, but
specifically.
you let Josh know they've invented this thing called cameras. Yeah. So well, I can tell you on the nose, very much like a traditional European lager, but when you taste this, I get that flavor for sure, but there's also a burst of some fruitiness going on there.
I love the aftertaste has like pretzel, like bread and pretzel, like right there in the aftertaste.
Makes me want a bread or a pretzel is what it does.
Yeah, these tasting notes are getting to me.
They're making you hungry, right?
Right.
Exactly.
We're gonna have
I
pretzels,
want
Some
some
chocolate.
cinnamon, I want
pretzels
chocolate,
and some chocolate.
maybe some leather.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has this really crisp, clean snap right
Yeah,
up front where you don't
for
even
sure.
expect it. Usually
Yeah.
that happens towards the end, and then it finishes with that pretzel, bready, delicious thing.
I really
Yeah.
like this.
It's
And it's
wonderful.
clean, and there's a little tiny bit of citrusy kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
there as
I
well.
got
You
that.
get a little
In
bit
the
of
nose,
it,
too.
and it makes
Very
it
clean.
it makes it I think more
I
interesting
can't
than
stop drinking.
makes it I think more interesting than just the straight. Like I enjoy every once in a while, buying one of those European beers. It's aisle 3
Yeah,
when you're
yeah,
at Specs
Specs,
in Midtown. Just wandering down there and choosing something that I don't know any of the words on it and it can't translate. But I was like,
always buy
this-
Merid soup.
This
'cause
looks
damn,
interesting.
that's so good.
But that to me is generally a more straightforward sort of a German or Belgian style lager. This kind of takes it and gives it a little twist, which I really like.
It's good.
Yeah, it really is. And
Good job, guys.
and a nice collaboration. I always wonder how the collaborations go. Like, does one brewmaster like secretly want to dominate the process, or like, is there an alpha brewmaster in these collaborations?
Gotta be.
Yeah, you would think so.
Well, someone's got to
Yeah.
drive the ship, so to
For
speak. I
sure.
think so. There's always
Right.
got to be like, okay, I'm heading this up,
Right.
and then probably goes from input from there.
Well, whoever drove this one,
Good job.
Yeah,
good
they
work.
did a
Yeah,
great job.
yeah.
Good
This
beer.
this came across great. So let's talk Highway Vodka. First of all, and I think this is, I'm really excited about having you guys here on the show because there've been. This has been for the last couple of years in our country. I think that many industries have been waking up to the fact that it's time to start recognizing much better than we have in the past the accomplishments of African Americans and the accomplishments of women in our industries. And so here we have an entire product that's being distilled. It's an African American owned business, and your master distiller is a woman. So you guys are like
Crushing it.
You're
Been my
crushing
favorite
it.
phrase lately.
Yeah, you're crushing it. You've told us kind of how the vodka started. How did you get involved to the point where you became actually the master distiller? And why aren't there more women in those positions in the industry?
So I'm going to answer your questions backwards.
Okay.
I don't think women even think like, hey, I should become a distiller. I think we're just like, oh, let's get a drink. Let's go drink with our friends. But we never think like,
Let's create the drink.
yeah,
Yeah, let's make it
or
from
even
scratch. Yeah.
and like researching how to start. But I definitely have been around since my dad was using that big old pot on the stove, and I could not cook dinner because he's taking up the whole stove. And from
Now I gotta
there,
have a hot pocket.
from there, we like Ben was kind of mentioning, they had a bar and restaurant, Scrappy Brown's, and I was bartending there. So they would kind of bring samples in and let the customers taste it, and I would be able to make cocktails with it then. But also, I feel like I was the one who was like the deciding factor on the flavor. Because,
so you were maybe the tie-breaking vote or the one who said
for
that
sure,
one,
yeah,
right?
because my dad would always bring me samples. I mean, I was in college at the time, so I was drinking all the time. And so he would bring samples, and he was like, hey, what do you think about this one? And my best friend and I would be like, no, that's too strong. That has too much of a burn. And then one day he brought me one, and I was like, that's it. That's perfect.
That's it, really.
So fast forward, started helping out with we have a sanitizer business, or I don't know if you guys know that, but we make sanitizer as well. So I started helping out with that, and then it just came to a point in time where I was like, hey, can I learn? I always saw the machines, and I would help out with filling the bottles and making the boxes. So I learned that process first, and then I was like, okay, I know all this. Maybe I should start and see if I could distill. And it's been going from there. I learned. I took about 6 months, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, learning, note-taking, researching.
Was learning how to distill.
Right, yeah. Right. It was definitely a difficult process and unlike anything I've ever done before, but I think now that I've gotten it down, I'm ready to go full throttle with it. So
one of our first guests on the show ever, back when we first started out, was Ian from Grateful Dane Rum, and we asked him, how'd you get started in learning to distill? And he said, I watched videos on YouTube.
That's what I did.
Are you kidding me? Really?
I read every single book on Amazon. I watched every video on YouTube, like to the point to where, you know how you're watching and it'll tell you last watched. Oh, here's a new one. Oh, I've seen this. And and that's the cool thing that she got to benefit from, because
she got to be a little more hands-on, I guess, when she was learning the ropes.
And by then, we had pretty much dialed in what we're doing, how we're doing
how
it.
The process was.
Yeah, so that was just a fun thing for her to pick up and really, do really well at. And it's kind of fun too when she brings her little batches. And she'll come with her little samples like, okay, how's this? And it's like, let me see.
Yeah, because I always have to let him taste them first before they go into the bottles. So if anything's wrong, he's the final say.
Cool.
Ben, you got it down, because if I were distilling or brewing, I would want to taste everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to taste everything now.
Right.
So if I were distilling or brewing, that would totally be the way.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Be.
You got to do it. It's a tough job, but
Oh my gosh, it's
We've talked about this before, but my favorite episode ever of the TV show Cheers is when Norm gets the job as the beer taster, and he walks in first day on the job. They've got him in the long white coat. He walks into the brewery. The big vats are there, the big and he just walks up to one and just hugs it.
I did that one day with the still.
That would totally be me.
Yeah.
That would totally
I have
be
a
me.
picture of it.
So now seriously, how often do you have to taste? So I mean, do you taste every batch? Do you taste?
Oh yeah.
Wow,
Every single batch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Every batch.
So you want to make sure it's consistent with what you've
Quality
done before.
control.
Right.
Quality control. Yeah. It's such an interesting thing. Again, I'm just so mad at my guidance counselor from high school. No one ever mentioned this was a possibility.
Ever.
No.
You're
Never.
right.
If you go into your guidance counselor at high school, she goes, "You could be a whiskey rep."
Yeah. It's like, well, you're not supposed to even be drinking.
I see so many things wrong with that, but there's a few things that are okay with that.
Things that are right.
things.
Yeah, you're
Because I
absolutely
never
right.
knew.
Now, when you're in the position you guys are, where you're making your own, you're putting it out there, is there a part of you that wants to taste all of your competitors to see how they stack up against you?
Yeah, I think that research was done prior to.
I did
That
that
research
in
was
college.
I was
called
about to say I
college.
did that in college.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah,
But I that's the fun part to me was back in the day doing those blind tastings, because I'll put it up against whoever, whatever, and just winning those consistently and organically. So that way you bypass the friend of yours that's like, no, it's good. It is. Really, I mean it.
Right.
No. Let's just go ahead and really
Blind taste test,
find out what we're doing. And so.
Have you found any, and I'm really curious about the answer to this, have you found any resistance at all in any of the corners of the industry to the fact that you are an African-American owned business and that your head distiller is a woman? I mean, I'm hoping your answer is no, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if you run into something.
The way I typically answer that question is, it's nothing new. If anything does happen, I mean, it's not like it's foreign to the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the overall, just So, but that being said, obviously right now we're in a different window of time, so like there's plenty of opportunities opening up. Like one thing that we're a part of is the Nearest and Jack initiative, and that's started by Fawn Weaver. She's the owner of and founder of Uncle Nearest whiskey, that whiskey that was made based off of
Jack Daniels.
Yeah, the slave that actually taught Jack Daniels how to distill.
How to make whiskey.
Yeah, she went back and actually found his original stuff, with her family.
Which is such a great story.
It's a huge story.
Yeah.
So they started an initiative between her and Jack Daniels and Brown Foreman, where they're helping minority distillers and companies, just kind of navigate the business. And so we got involved in that, and that was really great. Right. Because they opened us up to doors that just, would have taken us years to find on our own and stuff.
Right.
And so, like, that really accelerated our growth, and stuff like that, too. So, right now, I mean, like, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely it's not a negative, that I've experienced.
I would hope that tide has begun to turn. That the fact that it's been recognized less than it should and accepted less than it should throughout time, that you're now seeing doors being opened instead of doors being closed.
Right. Definitely.
I mean, because I hope that one day we get to a place where it just doesn't matter.
Right.
Where it isn't about ethnicity or gender or whatever. But I don't know that as a society we've been good enough to get there yet.
Not yet.
So in this moment, I think what's most important is to recognize, hey, look, this is a great product, and it's being made by people that are getting opportunities that maybe historically have not been there for minorities or for women in this. So I think it's a good part of the process to getting where we need to be. That's what I would hope for.
It's a tough subject to talk about.
It is.
Because a lot of people feel uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And when you feel uncomfortable talking about it, then no one talks about it, and then no one does anything about it, and nothing changes.
That's absolutely right. And I don't always want to, the show's about. It's about the spirits and the beers and the cigars. It's not. This show isn't about race, but at the same time, like you said, if nobody talks about it, if nobody acknowledges where things are and where things need to go, then there isn't any change.
In the past 4 years-ish we've been doing this, I've also found, though, in the spirit industry, with all the reps and companies and people that we've met over the years, the spirit industry tends to be more inclusive and not exclusive. Like,
I think
there
that's true.
tends to be, instead of, you create a product that's going to compete with mine, I don't want to talk to you, or I'm going to be negative towards you. Like, everyone in the industry seems to be like, you're doing that too? Awesome.
Right.
Because everybody's always drunk.
Yeah. Well,
look, let's be honest. When you drink together, it's easy to find commonality, right?
Sure.
Right? I think that's absolutely true. So
Well, I will kind of agree with that a little bit. Like, the fun part about, it's the hard part and the fun part. There's so few people that know anything about distilling. You know what I'm saying?
That's very true.
So it's kind of hard to find people to talk about that really know distilling and aren't just white labeling or something like that. That really know the process. And whenever you do find someone like that, it is fun because you could talk about it all day. The nuance of it and all the challenges with it. And not only the from the business side of it, but just the process of making, something like for real legit grain to glass,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And there's a lot of challenges you don't even think about too. Like, for instance, you're making this in a 5-gallon pot on your stove.
Right.
Okay. And then you go, okay, well, I need to now make 20 gallons.
Yep.
Well, you can do that 5-gallon pot that many times, or you can make your recipe bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not always as simple as, oh, well, I just use 4 times the amount of everything.
Right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
work. There's
I will say to that, like when we scaled, like when we got our initial distribution with the Silver Eagle, we had like a 13-gallon still. That was the hobby still and all that stuff. And so we went out and got equipment that literally mirrored that still, it's just bigger.
Just bigger.
Yeah, so that, because obviously we signed up and then we got a huge order, so we got to scale up equipment.
Right.
Got to learn how to use it. And they have all this stuff you could get into. And one of the biggest things was we had to build our own filters because doing it at home, we were just using like Britas for filtering. And
Right.
And so then when you get
That's
into,
going to take some time.
man, it was
sure.
a real concern
'Cause I know
that's
just
a big bottleneck. Yeah.
When I'm waiting on just a glass of water,
Right.
it seems to take
exactly.
forever, right?
So now you're talking about hundreds of gallons, and so we bought some filtration equipment, and it didn't work. And filtration equipment is really expensive, so we ended up going to a water supply plant. And I sat there with the guy, and we cut open a Brita, and we got on Google, and we found, he's like, yeah, we sell that media. So I bought that, took it back to the distillery, took some steel tubing and stuff, and we kind of made our own little
Made your own,
proprietary
that's-
blend.
That's fascinating.
Clever.
Yeah, but it
That's
worked because
fascinating.
we didn't have to change anything, and that was the biggest thing. Like even with like the all hearts no tails, like only bottling the hearts of the run isn't the most like financially best move because you're
Right.
leaving a lot of
Lose a
alcohol
lot,
on the
yeah.
table.
Sure, makes it more
But-
expensive.
Yeah, but the hearts, the tails, you don't want that anyway. Like that's where the headache lives and all that kind of stuff. So by doing it just for friends and family initially, we were only concerned about the hearts, and that's just how we kept it. So
I love that maintained as you went
Yeah.
into doing larger production. I
Yep.
think that's awesome. All right, we need to take a break. We're gonna when we come back, we're gonna do a little taste test here with Highway Vodka. We have more beer to taste, and of course, we're never far from drinking news.
it's
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. We are the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com because cigars. Yes. Check in on the show notes, the ongoing conversation on Facebook as we do the show. Our buddy Bruce Stark on Stark checks in to tell us that the Amazon Prime movie we were talking about earlier is called King of Beers.
Oh,
So
Amazon Prime.
he's right. I remember that now. But King of Beers. He also asks, has any cigar ever gotten above a 6? And then there was some discussion that there had been only one. But we've had a number of cigars go above a 6.
I did something that was a 7. I probably have it on here.
Yes, and I remember there was one 9. Do you remember what it was?
Yes, I do.
Yeah?
That was the
The black and
the black and tan,
mild.
yeah.
The black and
Or
mild.
black and mild, yeah,
Yep.
not black and tan.
Yeah. Yeah. So and
Because it's a sub-dollar cigar. It's like
Right.
a 60-cent cigar, and
you got great enjoyment
I
out
just
of it.
enjoyed it.
So that's price to quality. No, we've had several. I've given cigars 6s and 7s. I don't know. Have I ever done an 8 or 9?
I don't know.
I don't remember. We'll have to go back.
But I
and
will
look.
tell you, with the black and mild, when you're talking about a cigar that costs less than $1, I mean, substantially less than $1. Like if you buy them in bulk, they're like 60 cents a cigar.
yeah.
It's
and
not
I'm
a
not
great
saying
cigar.
I'm not saying it's a great cigar, but for that price, that's a pretty okay cigar.
price to quality.
And price to
Absolutely.
quality wise,
Yeah.
that's pretty
What would
awesome.
the tasting notes be on a beanie?
All right. So speaking of tasting, this is neat.
Yes.
Yes.
Highway Vodka. So the first thing that people probably wonder is when you put your nose in the cup, can you smell hemp? Does it give off any of that kind of smell?
I don't really get it.
I don't really get it. Yeah.
I get
no.
a little sweetness that smells really nice.
Right.
And just to clarify things too, this is made with hemp, but it's not THC. It doesn't.
Right.
There's no other effects other than it's vodka.
Right.
But I will say, not all. Let me say it this way: some products that bring hemp or CBD or something into the process do better than others. I'm still trying to get used to. Stillwater Brewing has a beer that's called. It's an ale called 420, and I've had several of them.
Flavor.
Yes, when you drink it, it is like drinking what it smells like when you open up a package of buds. Right?
You're drinking carbonated bong water.
Yeah, and I have to say, I have
rough.
Okay, for real.
That's one of those.
Actually, it tastes better than what I would guess carbonated bong water.
Right.
It's not
But I will
good.
say it's one of those that like I love the aroma, but it's not. I haven't quite been able to get used to that being a flavor that I want when I'm drinking a beer.
Right.
You know?
So that's one thing people always ask, like before they've ever had, is like, is it gonna taste like hemp? And I'm like, no, not at all. That's not the goal at all. And what you'll notice too is like when you ring your glass like that, you notice how it clings.
Yeah.
So that's the
oil to it,
oils
yeah.
that are still
I was going to say I'm not really used to that with vodka.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it gives a little bit more body to it, and that's the oils that we throw into the still on that lazy day, that float on top and kind of act as the first layer of filtration for the vapors during the distillation process. So that oil holds some of the sweetness from the corn on your palate and gives it the nuanced flavor.
Yeah, so it has, on the nose, it has a very clean and slightly sweet nose to it. And then the flavor is exactly that, too. It's a very clean and slightly sweet.
Well, I definitely get the corn, which you're saying that part of the mash bill causes that to maybe that flavor to be retained a little more, right? And it's I tell you what, it's very. I'm gonna rate it on the danger scale because it's very easy to drink.
There's
You know?
so little heat from this.
That's the oil.
There's so little heat from this. It comes back just a little bit later. You get a little bit of vodka hug in the background. It comes back a little bit later, but like the initial sip of this is not what you would think.
And as if vodka needed to be any easier to drink.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. Vodka neat
Yeah.
is not always.
At all.
Even what they call really high-end vodkas, neat, are not always easy to drink. And there's only a few I know of myself that I drink neat and enjoy.
Well,
Very few.
I think I've told this before, but I was at a restaurant in Las Vegas. I believe the name of the restaurant was Red Square. I was there with my buddy Dave. And they did this thing where they would bring you 6 little test tubes with vodka, like a flight of vodka, in this frozen brick that had red food coloring in the water. So it was this frozen red brick with 6 vodkas, and you would taste them all neat. Actually, it was really good. Like, I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed just being able to do that with 6 different
Neat
types
and room temperature too.
Neat, but they were these test tubes were in this ice.
In the ice.
So they were nice and cold.
Chill.
So that's what's funny about, like, one of the biggest things, I think that was actually the biggest gift, was throughout the process of, making this stuff over the years and going to test people on it. For whatever reason, they always wanted to taste it neat and room temperature.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, like, most people never drink vodka like that.
At all.
Right.
But that's what helped us really dial it in and dial it down. And like she said, like when her and her friend finally took a sip of that and their face didn't immediately,
Right.
Yeah,
Scrunch
they were
up.
just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
Well, so a lot of vodkas and a lot of whiskeys, a lot of spirits in general, and this just happens. This is part of the way your taste buds work. When you chill it, you mask a lot of harsh flavors.
yeah.
Sure.
Beer is a victim of that too. When you have a very cold beer, like for instance, if your stout is too cold,
Yeah.
you don't taste a lot of the flavors, and as it warms up, you taste more. And that's one of the reasons I like. So a lot of people say, okay, don't put ice in scotch or don't put ice in your expensive whiskey. I almost always put a chip of ice because I like to taste it when it's cold. You get those fruitier flavors, and then as it melts in and warms up,
You get those warmer.
you get all
wood
those
flavors
warmer flavors that come in, and it's nice. So I feel like if you're going to give something a fair review, tasting it neat is the best way, because that's when you're going to taste everything.
Right,
It's not
right.
masking any flavor.
For sure.
So
Exactly.
I will mention we've been threatening to do this for a long time, and it is now on the schedule. The Great Martini Face-Off will be coming to Smoking and Toasting.
I got
in
a text
August.
from Chris about that.
Yes. So we've been talking about this because I actually really enjoy vodka martinis.
Me too.
Ian is a gin martini guy, or as he puts it, he's a martini guy.
I'm a martini guy.
He doesn't even allow that the other exists when it comes to martinis. So we've got our one of our cocktail experts, our cocktail expert here that comes on the show from time to time, Chris Morris, who's a great bartender and lover of the spirits. He's a gin martini guy, and I've been asking him for a long time, do you know anybody who's like a total bartender, total vodka martini guy? And apparently he has lined someone up, and he's bringing them in with him. It won't be until August, but we will be doing the Great Martini Face-Off.
That sounds amazing.
I'm very excited. If you guys want to come and just hang and drink
I'd like to
martinis,
see that.
you are welcome to be here. You won't be able to say anything.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Because Chris Morris will be here, and he won't leave any room for anyone else to speak.
I don't need to.
It's not because we won't let you talk.
Yeah,
it's
that's
because
right.
Morris talks a lot.
We would love for you to speak, but you may have a difficulty getting
no
in
problem.
there. So, but I'll just mention, as a person that loves vodka martinis, one of the reasons that you love them is that the vodka takes on the flavor. You get it nice and cold, first of all, and it takes on the flavor of whatever kind of martini you're making.
For sure.
I like them nice and dirty, so
Me
it's like
too.
it's like drinking olive juice, but
That's like a tofu martini.
right, it's got a better kick to it.
It doesn't
you know?
have any flavor. It just takes on whatever, right?
Well, but that's okay. Like, and
well, is that much different than having a glass of iced vodka
well,
with,
sure it is, because the vodka
with a little olive juice poured into it?
Well, I suppose it's similar, but with a vodka martini, you've got this big glass,
Yeah.
and it's ice cold,
And it's not watered down.
and it's not watered down, and it's got olive juice mixed in it, and then it's got olives sitting in it. I mean,
It's perfect.
It's a way to describe heaven, I think.
Yes,
You know?
I agree with you.
It really is.
I love
it's one of
vodka
the,
martinis.
you know, I don't make a lot of great drinks, but my vodka martinis, my super dirty vodka martinis, are pretty darn good.
I actually learned how to make that from you, making
Yeah?
them as scrappies
Yeah.
for you. And that's when I fell in love.
There you go. Well, I got to tell you though, it's incredibly easy to drink, and I really want to make a martini with this because I would be interested to see, because it does have a little
You caught me
more
one time
flavor.
without my martini kit.
Yeah,
Oh,
you know,
man.
he usually travels with it. It's like, you know how
But
some
then again,
people,
we were having vodka, so I wasn't thinking martinis.
Yeah, you know how some people have that bug out kit in their car, like if the shit hits the fan, they've got the the stuff they need to survive. Ian usually travels with the martini kit.
I'm like the dog from the cartoon, you know, with the little
right.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, let's take a break. We're going to come back. We are going to do cocktails. We're going to do a little Highway Vodka cocktail coming up in the show.
Express.
And, Pineapple Express. I like it already.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into our next beer, which is a black IPA from B52 Brewing in Conroe.
Hey,
So
this will be the first B52 beer I think I've tried.
I think so. And
Pretty excited about that.
it's been a while since I had a black IPA, so I'm psyched about that too. So we'll be back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 200 and what did I say, 225?
25.
Holy moly, somebody better step in this thing.
Exact halfway point, 300.
In the beginning.
Welcome
Man,
back.
that's a good guitar tone.
Who is that guy anyway? Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. By the way, I love the way the sound effects of her pouring the stuff into the glasses
In the background, yeah, it's
worked
awesome.
worked with the music there in the beginning. It's very good. Ian, last month the Brewers Association, the not-for-profit trade group that's dedicated to promoting and protecting America's small and independent craft brewers, released its beer-style guidelines for 2021. The guidelines serve as a model resource for brewers, beer judges, competition organizers, and they celebrate the great diversity of beer around the world. They have brought into play 3 new categories of beer.
Categories.
Yeah, so these may have existed.
Is one of them anything from Ingenious?
No, but that would be a great category.
That would be
anything from
Ingenious
Ingenious.
Brewing.
Yes, that would be good. No, they brought 3 new styles that are recognized, and so I suppose if they're recognized, then you can do beer competitions that face these styles off, different breweries off against each other. But the three new styles of beer, if you will, are Kentucky Common Beer, which I will admit I have no idea what that is.
No idea.
Yeah, so we'll have to search that out. Kentucky Common Beer, New Zealand Style Pale Ale and India Pale Ale. So we've got West Coast, we've got New England, we've got several different recognized styles of IPA, and now a New Zealand style pale ale. I've always wanted to go to New Zealand.
I remember when it was just IPA.
Yeah, right. It was just IPA, but now there's all these different offshoots.
I just said something that old people say.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, as you guys can tell, we spare every expense when it comes to sound effects on the show. So, and
when I was a kid, we only had one kind of IPA.
The third one is Belgian style session ale. These are all
interesting.
New to
Okay.
me. So you can kind of tell what they are, except for Kentucky Common Beer. I have no idea.
That's a good question.
I wonder if that's like what Montucky Cold Snack is.
That's because it's not good. If that's what it is.
I know. I'm not excited
good
about
beer.
it, but. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that because it says Kentucky in the style. But anyway, something to be on the lookout for. Ian, if you're in the store and you see any beers in that size, grab it because we got to try them on the show.
Okay.
All right.
Will do.
All right. Fair enough. All right. We are Smoking and Toasting. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com because cigars. And our guests are Ben and Cody from the Highway Vodka Distillery right here in our hometown of Houston, Texas. And now Cody's been mixing it up over here.
Yes, I have.
So you mentioned that, before you were a distiller that you did work as a bartender. Mm-hmm. And so you've got some experience of putting things together.
Of course.
So approaching cocktails then with your own vodka, are there certain vodka cocktails that would work better with Highway Vodka than others? Or is it really the type of thing where you can put it in any vodka
That's
cocktail?
what I was going to say. Yeah, I think Highway's great in anything. I even make margaritas with Highway, like frozen margaritas, and they're amazing.
So how do you make that? Just out of curiosity,
the
basics of how to make the margarita.
So like the little cans of lemon juice and like the frozen, lemon and lime juice. I'll do one of those, like a cup of Highway vodka, and then some powdered sugar. Then blend it up, and
powdered
it's already
sugar.
Yeah, it's amazing in margaritas.
And somehow it comes out. Does it taste the way that a tequila made margarita tastes, or does it have a different flavor because it's vodka?
Yeah, it has a little bit of a different flavor. To me, it's a lot more smooth. Like, it's not as harsh as a tequila margarita would be. Okay. It's easy to drink, and I could drink a whole pitcher of it in like 20 minutes.
I was going to say, again, do margaritas need to be easier to drink?
No, they really don't. They don't.
But that makes sense that it would be a little different, because I know if you make your margarita, for example, with mezcal, it'll have a smokier vibe to it.
I don't like mezcal.
Yeah, you know what? I'm learning.
I'm starting to get into it.
It has taken me some time, but
I like Scotch though. So
Ian bought me a bottle of mezcal for a gift, maybe a couple Christmases ago.
Yeah, something like that.
And that has just kind of slowly brought me into the mezcal family.
I have to give it another shot.
Yeah, but if you're,
it's a unique flavor.
Yeah, I'm a big tequila person, so my first reaction to it was, well, I don't want my tequila smoky.
Yeah.
But then you could say the same thing about peated scotch. It's like, if you like bourbon or unpeated whiskeys, the first time you try a peated scotch, it's probably not.
There's always a knee-jerk reaction to peated or smoked spirits.
But over time, you start to go, you know what? This is awfully good. This is. I think your palate has to develop.
It is a
for
thing.
sure.
It's a
I
thing.
think so too.
So I have a feeling I'm not going to have my palate adjust to this at all. What are we drinking here, and what's in it?
So this is the Pineapple Express. It's one of our most popular cocktails. It's got tropical Red Bull, of course, Highway vodka, pineapple juice, and a little bit of lime juice, and that's it.
Tropical vodka, tropical Red Bull, Highway vodka,
pineapple juice, and lime juice.
Okay, and.
I want to point out,
smells terrific.
I'm glad you didn't serve it with a straw because mine would be gone already.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And you can always add more Red Bull if you like. That's the topper. So.
Oh my goodness, that's delicious.
It's good, right?
I mean, that's really good. So
Summertime.
yeah. That's
so
what
is
I was
it
gonna say.
how much of the vodka versus the other things?
So it's an ounce of vodka, a half ounce of lime juice, ounce of pineapple juice, and then like a little splash of the Red Bull.
Okay.
So
you just use that as a splash to kind of give it a little fizz. And,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. So pineapple juice and vodka and
Lime juice
are
and then
all
the Red
about the
Bull.
same amount, or did you say
So
lime juice was less?
the vodka and the pineapple juice are same increments, and then the lime juice and the Red Bull are kind of
like
around
a
the
little-
same.
Okay, gotcha. I will say that I learned how to make really good margaritas, and what I did was I would find like a recipe, like in a book or on the internet, and then I would immediately triple the amount of tequila.
Exactly.
For sure.
And so I make these at home, and I think they're really good. And sometimes when we're at a restaurant, my wife
tequila
orders
to
a
taste. We're going to need another bottle.
Right.
my wife orders a margarita, and she's like, "There's
This
nothing
isn't
to
strong
this."
enough.
She's totally used to my extra tequila margaritas, but this seems balanced just absolutely perfectly.
Thank you.
Almost too easy to drink, as you were saying.
Yeah, mine's
'cause it would-
almost got
this in the summer, like pool
Yep.
party. Are you
yeah.
kidding me?
Right, sitting outside.
Oh, and it's got because of the pineapple, it's got a real tropical vibe to
Right.
it, which makes me happy. I love this. That's
Yeah,
really
it's a lot of
fantastic.
fun.
Now,
Thanks,
let me
guys.
ask you this. A little bird told me that vodka may not always be the only thing you're distilling.
That's
And,
true.
is that something we can talk about?
Yeah, we could talk about it a little bit. So we do have whiskey in the barrel, so we've been sitting on it for going
That's
on.
one step away from whiskey in the jarro, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
Yep. And so it's just about ready to come on out. It's been there a couple of years now, and we're just about ready to pull it. But we're only gonna have a limited allocation because we really believe in making everything from scratch. So we're only gonna have like enough to do like maybe like a holiday release of the holidays.
That's a great way to do it, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about this on the show. It's like if you want to start a whiskey distillery, you can do your thing, and you can mix up your mash bill and get everything all ready, and then you can
wait.
sit around and wait for a
Just
while.
wait.
And so most distilleries do one of two things. They either start blending other
Right.
people's whiskey while they wait for theirs to age, or they will distill vodka
else.
or gin or rum or
yeah.
something else. So
Yeah.
Something that has a quicker turnaround.
Right.
Right, absolutely, and so you must be excited if it's
Did
been
you-
resting for a
Did
while,
you,
right?
It is
when
fun.
you started this, did you know you were going to go to whiskey?
No.
You were straight up vodka. You were
Yeah,
thinking
'cause
long
I-
term.
yeah.
Thinking about whiskey.
Right, because I'm like a Scotch guy, and so I'm either Scotch or vodka, right? And so, but then throughout the day, the years or
Two
whatever,
opposite ends of the stick.
Right.
it is, and then and so as I got just more into it, then kind of started getting interested in whiskey and just the process of it, and like playing with char levels and this kind of wood and this barrel and that barrel and stuff like that, and so. Then remember the first ones we had like some little bitty little tester barrels
yeah,
that we
the
got from
barrels are like
someplace
this
in
big.
Pearland.
Oh,
It's so
Yeah.
I know the ones you're talking about. They sell them so you can put your own whiskey. in
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like accelerates the aging and you can kind of get an idea. And when we tapped that first little barrel after like 30 days, like this is pretty good. Like,
Oh wow.
you know what I'm saying? This is cool.
That's just 30 days.
Yeah, and then so then we just started buying barrels, smaller size, so that it would we wouldn't have to wait as long, but get the age equivalent. So we got a lot of them going now. So like I said, we're gonna pull it all for the holidays.
So is it difficult to find? So many people are barrel aging everything from beers to spirits these days. Seems like there's more demand for those barrels than ever. Was it hard to find barrels?
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah, it's pretty easy. I mean,
Really?
they're out
Interesting.
there. Yeah, I mean, you get inundated with like cooperage is like, hey, check out our, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right. People trying to sell them to you.
Yeah, they're out there for sure.
So I've always wondered.
Cooperages are right now going, hey, we used to be a small business and now we're big.
I've always wondered though what that for a distiller, like what that process is like. Like when you go to check out the barrel, like do you put your head inside the barrel and smell? Like how do you figure out this is going to be the right one?
So, you know, basically all it is like first you got to commit to just walking away from it for a minimum of like 6 months before you can even bother.
Because it's got to impart something over time.
It's got to get started or whatever. And then inevitably you just can't take it anymore and you start going over there and pulling the bung out and just take your dropper and pulling something out. Yeah, and just trying to see like, you know, what's going on in there, you know.
Do you start out with a specific amount of time that you know you're going to have it rest in the barrel, or do you say we'll know when we get there by sampling it?
The first thing was it was pretty much know when we get there by sampling it. So we have one particular barrel that we do our samples, and as it was getting there, and one day it was just like, it's time. That's good.
It's here. It's
here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
And you know, you got the color and
right. You're
all that
looking at
stuff
all
plays a big
the
part.
nose. You're looking at all the factors.
Right.
Sure.
You know, the hardest challenge about whiskey though is like, what proof do you want to introduce it to the public at, right? Because see, I like it at a higher proof because the flavors are just way more intense.
More intense, yeah.
You know, but like a lot of people don't like stuff that's over 100 proof. Like, but I mean,
scared.
You know, so I mean,
Ian's like, who are those people?
right.
Those aren't people.
No, but I
Straight
understand
up.
it though. I mean, if you are a more casual whiskey drinker, that can be a little off-putting, and you're like, you know, I don't want that kind of heat. I'm looking to enjoy the flavors,
Right.
and so I get it. I mean, it's I think over time, if you
There's
know,
a
if you drink a
secret
lot of
to
it,
that though.
yeah.
Add water.
Well, you're absolutely right.
And it will change the flavor slightly, but add water.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, you're
Throw a
absolutely
big
right.
old ice cube in there.
That is totally.
Any way you want to drink it.
Totally
We got a
the way to
couple comments on here. So Wiki Brian says Kentucky Common is a once popular ale from around Louisville, about 1850 up to Prohibition.
Oh wow, very interesting.
So amber in color, light brown, amber to light brown in color, aroma, light hop, possible slight berry esters, DMS aromas.
Well, I'm really
high
interested to try this.
carbonation and 4 to 5.5 ABV.
Nice.
So, and then Bruce Stark or OnStark says, "Where is Highway Vodka available? Is it in Texas only?"
So, Texas, Georgia, brick and mortar so far. Just got into Florida and California.
That's
But they
cool.
But they can order it online via reservebar.com and get it shipped anywhere.
Reservebar.com.
Reservebar.com.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it can go
We
anywhere.
will ship it to you anywhere.
Awesome. That's so great. And I know that there are some regulations about buying this online, but you guys don't have any problem with reservebar.com being able to do that, right?
No, yeah, that's the whole.
They've taken care of
Yeah,
that. part.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome.
But
That's
brick and
clever.
mortar, Total Wine, Specs, all the chain stores
Right.
in Texas.
Yeah,
you know,
I've seen this on the shelf at Specs, proudly displayed. So it's a
Yeah.
pretty awesome thing. It's a pretty awesome thing. Well, Ian, let's crack open another beer in the segment. I'm watching the time. I think we got just enough time in this segment to do a black IPA. This is from B52 Brewing in Conroe. So even in Conroe, which for those of you that don't know, it's a small suburb north of Houston, Texas. Even in Conroe, there's more than one great brewery going on. So,
Oh yeah, Southern Star.
yeah.
I don't know if you're a fan of stouts, but if you had the Southern Star Buried Hatchet Stout,
Oh, it's fantastic.
it's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
literally
Honestly,
one of the best.
one of the
stouts.
better stouts there are, I think.
It's up there with
Thank you.
Founder's Breakfast Stout. It's up there with all the classics.
And today we'll be trying the Anchorage Brewing Imperial
Nice.
Stout. So that's going to be.
so I'm excited
Gonna
about
be very
B52
interesting.
because I haven't tried anything from them. Is that it?
Yes,
I
that's
wasn't
it.
counting. I was just pouring and passing. pour, pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
All right, so here goes a black
I
IPA.
got a chuckle from our producer on that one.
Poor Pat.
Well,
you can smell the hop right off.
I was going to say on the nose, it comes across like an IPA, but what I'm expecting is a little more roasted, malty vibe than a typical IPA. But yeah, you're right. It's like it reminds me of like a Shiner Black,
which is rich, dark,
which is not an IPA, but
almost a little bit of
phased out. Wow,
to it when you hold up.
That's an IPA.
But it really has lots of that roasted malt going on for an IPA.
That's all I taste.
You tasted what?
Weed.
Really?
That's what it tastes like to me.
I don't think there's any of that in
some of
here.
the some of the IPA, some of the hops have a dankness to them.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Which is that's where that comes from.
I usually don't drink that much beer, so I'm learning a lot today.
Well, I don't know that we're the best to learn from, but
this is delicious.
it really is good, isn't it?
It's weirdly fizzy for me to like it too.
No, it's good.
I
though.
agree, because generally one of the things I'm most critical about with IPAs is if they're too carbonated. And in this case, it's very carbonated, and I love that.
Very carbonated,
Yeah.
but it works.
But it kind of works.
this.
You know what it is? I think it's the richness of that toasted malt flavor.
Yeah.
It kind of works against, I'll say, the carbonation, and they balance each other out real nicely.
What does it say on the can here?
Mm-hmm.
According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink.
I see how you would laugh at that every time.
Every
I
time.
would
It is,
too.
'cause I'm waiting. I'm like,
Me too,
Our-
right? It's
our
like,
class-
oh, God,
My wife is like, really? He's still doing that?
Well, if you want a joke to get funnier, you got to tell it more.
That's true.
Our
Absolutely
classic black IPA, dry hopped with loads of Cascade Centennial and Chinook hops. It gives that old school citrusy and piney character. It's that piney taste.
Yep.
Okay, that's what it is.
With a roasty backbone we all love. This is an incredibly interesting IPA. I like
it's
this. I'm
cool.
for it.
I love the way it smells.
Yeah, well, it's so we got to have these guys on the show. I think we're.
I poured myself a little bit more, so I want to try it when it warms up a little bit, see what happens.
That should be interesting. Now, it's another place Ian and I differ, and I understand and agree with everything he said about temperature and drinking. I just still like my beer really cold.
Me too.
Yeah, same.
That's how I like to drink it. So, but there are some things.
So
I
it's
understand.
different for me for different. I probably like this cold because it was really good the way it is now.
Yeah.
I just want to try it warm too. But there's some beers like when I'm drinking stouts or bigger IPAs, I usually like them to warm up a little bit because you get more flavors out of it.
Well,
you know?
speaking of
Are
stouts,
we room temperature warm, or like, what do you mean?
Not usually room temperature, but below. We're talking about like 50 degrees ish. You know?
so a lot of people talk about that with wine. They say, well, you're supposed to drink red wine at room temperature. Well,
Right.
what they miss about that.
That's room temperature in France.
Exactly. And room temperature in France
Yeah,
is
it's not Texas.
88 degrees or 100 degrees like it can be in Texas.
Never thought about
it's,
that.
it's
absolutely true,
much
yeah.
cooler. So mildly cool is the best temperature according to wine aficionados
Yeah.
for red wine.
So in the mid 60s is what they're, because a lot of
Right.
people, like even up north, my
makes sense.
brother-in-law and my sister live in Pennsylvania. They have a cold room in their basement.
Right.
And that's where he stores his beers, and most of the time it doesn't even make it to the fridge.
When
even
I-
in the middle of summer.
When I lived in Pennsylvania, I had a cold room in my entire house. The whole house was drafty and cold. I'm telling you.
But yeah, so that's when I talk about warming up, I don't necessarily mean room temperature. Although if you can drink a beer at room temperature and it's still good, that says something about
Yeah, I'd
the
be
rest.
interested to
for
see
sure.
that. Yeah.
I will say I
I mean, we
enjoyed
tried your vodka at room temperature.
Right.
I
It was good.
enjoyed tasting beer at room temperature, but if I'm going to drink one, I want it to be cold.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
certain
True.
styles are just more fun when they're cold. Like if I'm drinking a lager or something along those lines, I definitely want it colder.
Yeah, that's
Ian,
crisp, clean. That's
Yeah.
meant to.
Could I
just-
see that B-52 can for
Yes,
just a moment?
The one that says, according to the Surgeon
Yeah,
General.
that's the one. I was just going to look at it because I don't see it. I thought maybe there would be some mountains that turn blue when the beer was cold enough, but apparently not.
As a matter of fact, what you'll notice about
How are we
this,
going to know if the beer is cold?
Let's
if the beer's
talk
not?
about
That's
this.
true.
Let's talk about this in a lot of craft brews. By the way, this is a 7.2%.
Oh,
And it doesn't come
wow.
across boozy at all.
No.
Let's talk about this. This is a basic 16-ounce can with a label just stuck to it.
Uh-huh.
It's just a sticker.
Well, you see,
it's not printed on the can.
You see a lot of that though with the seasonal and
That's what
the
I was thinking.
So
They
you're
look the
seeing a lot of that,
same.
especially with seasonals and stuff like that. So I want to point out one thing, that unlike macro brews, they spend a lot less. Pardon me. They spend a lot less on the packaging and more on the ingredients to the instrument.
Well,
or to the I'm sorry, the beer. I'm looking at my instrument here.
But Ian, before you criticize, don't you remember several years ago when Miller Lite changed their packaging and how much better the beer was?
Don't you remember the Vortex bottle?
that's to this day, that's my favorite.
With the 2-inch neck
Yeah.
that had some fluting in there,
Which,
because
by the
that
way,
makes it.
By the way, didn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It
It's
didn't
not
work
enough.
at all.
And
Not only did it not change the flavor, but it didn't vortex. It just poured down there.
Straight down.
It was stupid.
Yes, absolutely. But you got to sell the packaging. You're not selling the beer at that piece. These guys are doing the exact opposite. This beer is delicious.
Yeah,
the packaging doesn't need to be much, although it's cool. You know,
it's
cool.
I like
Cool.
it's called
It's
phased
cool.
out. So you've got this.
You got a phase
great
color there, yeah.
Phase from pink to purple.
Well, I just like to announce that I would be happy to offer my services as a beer consultant. If you are drinking a brand that does not have color-coded mountains on the can, and you need to know if your beer is cold, for a very small fee, I will be happy to sample your beer and let you know if it's cold or not.
It's a tough job.
I have a cold detector.
Somebody's got to do it,
Somebody-
right?
that I
has
keep
to.
with me at all times.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Watch, I'll show you how I use it. That beer is actually pretty
It's
cold.
ready to go.
Yeah, very good.
Now it's not like just came out of the freezer or out of an ice chest.
Right,
Cold.
yeah, right. But
It's like
pretty
came
cold.
out of the fridge about half hour ago. Cold.
You're right on it. So you're very good at this. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back. Guess what's happening next, folks? You've been waiting, and it's here. Drinking news.
Drinking news. There'll be time for drinking news.
That really is a great beer.
Yeah, that's good. Did you get that up in specs?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed. I think they just started carrying B-52 because that was the first time I remember seeing it. So I was very excited.
As it's warming up, it's getting a little bit of a bitter note, like almost like an ESB has,
Interesting.
which I kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little sweet right before the finish. It's just
All right,
on.
I'm ready to rock. Okay, so this is one more longer segment, and then we'll have a short one to wrap up the show. Oh, Ian, let me give you the beer.
No, please don't give me beer. He said never.
She used to say, but
Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. We are so glad to have you with us on the program today. Our special guests are Ben and Cody from Highway Vodka. And I just have to say, Cody, this cocktail, holy moly. Okay, before you leave, I have to write this down.
but
'cause
I can
will
make you
forget.
another one too
Well,
if you would like.
Oh, I could never presume to ask for another cocktail.
No, you don't have to ask. I'm telling you, I'll make you another one.
Ian, what do you think? Should I ask for another cocktail?
Come on, Ian.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't turn one down if one popped up.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
another
fair
round
enough.
for the
Yeah,
table is
Another
what we're
round for
saying.
the table
All right,
is,
let's do it.
is good. But before you leave the studio today, you've got to give me the exact stuff again
Of
so I can
course.
write it
And
down.
it's also
'Cause I wanna
all
make
on our
this at home.
website too.
Oh, it is? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
and that's called the Pineapple Express, and then the margarita is
What
called
is-
the Harawana.
And
What-
the
the
Harawana.
Yeah, we
I love
basically
it.
That's
call
our
it a margarita
margarita.
without the headache.
So is your website, is it highwayvodka.com?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Want to make sure we got that. All right, Ian, time to pick up your musical instrument, sir. Because it's time once
The
again.
ukulele of doom.
Something about that just works. That could be your album title. It's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Did you forget how it goes?
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked about his absent arm, he said,
I don't know why this is not working today.
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
A Florida man.
Well, welcome to Drinking News for show number 225.
Not
And
all good stories start with the phrase "a Florida man,"
And we've
but
had
every story that starts with the phrase "a
A
Florida,
Florida man
is
a good story. Yes, and we've had a flurry of them. But today's Drinking News is actually not a Florida man story, because there are drinking news-worthy things that go on in other parts of the world. Believe it or not. Now, while no man can say that he totally understands women, some guys are a little further behind the curve than others. Introducing Mike, who shared his story with the world on TikTok. Mike P89, or at Mike P89 on TikTok, said that he'd noticed that his wife had gained just a, quote, little bit of weight lately, end quote, on the social media platform where he regularly posts videos. Ian, I can see this look on your face like, trouble's coming.
A brewing.
Yeah. So he surprised his wife with a gift that would motivate her to lose a pound or two. Not expecting what would happen. In a video that has now been viewed on TikTok almost 17 million times, Mike claims, what I decided to do was, for her birthday, I bought her a really, really nice dress, but it was just a couple of sizes too small.
Ooh.
I put a note on it. Oh, it gets worse.
Warning, danger, Will Robbins.
I put a note on it, he says, and he shares all this in the video, so here's to him for being willing to share. I put a note on it, he said, that says, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in this. Thinking, might motivate her, right? But what she said left him, well, a little embarrassed. He explained that after he left the dress 2 sizes too small and the note, he came home several days later, and on the counter
I know it.
were a pack of condoms
I knew it.
that were, let's just say, the Magnum size.
No.
Way too big for Mike P89. Had a note on it from his wife that says, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in these.
Oh, she is smart.
Since posting his story on TikTok,
Or
it's been liked more than 2.5 million times.
I have to go find that.
And has received more than 28,000 comments. And that,
Wow.
ladies and gentlemen, is your
Drinking news, drinking news. That was time for drinking news.
cheers, y'all. So you had
That was
heard this
good.
story before.
No, I knew.
You just saw it coming.
I saw it
yeah,
coming.
you saw it
I
coming.
have to go find the TikTok video now.
Yeah. So it's at Mike_P_89.
Mike P89. Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So there
That's
you go.
so funny.
That the drinking news stories are always stories that we at least believe to be true.
Yeah,
Right.
that happened.
As Ian's
Yeah.
as Ian's song says, I've got a story and I swear it's true.
Yeah.
We at least try not to. We don't get them from the Onion, is what I'm saying. So,
Gotcha.
so it's good stuff.
Although the onion is hilarious.
Let me tell you what else is awesome. This cocktail that I now have a fresh one.
Oh, man.
I
So
told
this
you
is-
I'll
I
make
looked
you
away
another
for a
one.
minute.
The Pineapple Express
I
has
got
returned.
you.
It is pulled into the station, and it's
Cheers,
wonderful.
guys.
Cheers,
Yes.
absolutely. This is honestly.
Cheers.
There are cocktails that I describe as like really interesting. It's kind of like it's kind of like some beers. Like there's some beers that are really interesting and I love to taste them, and then there's other beers that I love to drink. This is a cocktail that I love to drink.
Okay,
It
so
just
you really
is
want that recipe then?
Oh, you got to. I'm making this tonight. Are you kidding me? I'm making this
Look at
tonight.
that packaging.
This right here.
Wow.
So Ian's and now
I'm
pouring.
pouring it out. I just want you to know it has the consistency of used motor
Oh,
oil.
not just motor oil,
Literally.
used motor oil. Yeah, it's thicker from having been in the crankcase for this long.
Wow.
Wow. So this is an Imperial IPA. So an Imperial obviously is I'm sorry, not IPA. Imperial
Like
Stout.
coffee.
Bigger.
Oh, my goodness.
There's Stout.
More.
There's double stouts.
Fermented
and then there's
and aged.
Imperial Stout.
Imperial Stout fermented and aged in Missouri oak finished on
smells
coconut
amazing.
and coffee.
Yeah.
All I smell is the coffee.
Brewed and bottled by Anchorage Brewing Company, Anchorage, Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages
See,
during pregnancy.
I'm telling you, it gets funnier.
Okay.
It
It
just
has to.
gets funnier.
This is really good.
So,
It
Ian,
is, it
what
is.
is the
Good
ABV
grief.
on?
Did you take a
said
sip yet?
Anchorage? No, I haven't. I've
Take
only
a sip
smelled
and then I'll
Wow.
tell you.
Oh my goodness.
Woo, baby! This
Made
is
my
like
mouth water.
Yeah,
Oh, this is coffee
This
and
is
coconut
crazy.
ridiculousness.
Yeah.
wow.
This
Are
is
you ready
almost
for
like
this?
a meal.
Yeah,
Wow.
we just
it really is.
Oh, it keeps getting better.
Yes, it does.
put
like-
some creamer in this.
Like cocoa nibs on the
Really?
end and stuff. This
Yeah.
is 15.5%.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, this is big.
This is getting up there with some of the beers you bring in. Yeah,
Like, tell me where we can find this
Yeah,
one.
that's a
yeah,
good one.
this is.
got
Well,
it?
it's
Specs?
Anchorage. Did you get this local?
I don't think I got that one local.
Gotcha.
I think
This
I got that
is
one online.
amazing.
But but it is really, really good.
Did you drink a
There
bottle
is
of this, though?
there is probably
Yeah, probably.
more viscosity
A lot
to
of
this
viscosity.
beer than I think any beer I've had in a very
Like
long
the
time.
Bloody
sure.
Mary
I like-
of
It's,
beers.
it's
I like-
almost like a syrup.
Look at
Yeah,
look
it
at how it
is.
clings to the glass. This is the best part. Let me get this up on camera. Look at that. Like,
Wow.
Yeah, it's just stuck
Crazy.
there.
I'm
and
impressed.
then the little chunks of stuff in there are particularly nice.
Yeah.
I was
you
going to
know-
ask you what that is.
Yeah.
That's usually
you
dead
may-
yeast bodies.
You may not want to
Okay.
know. You may not want to know.
A little bit won't hurt you. If you get a beer that has a lot of that, you're gonna be gassy.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
boy. Okay. Good to know.
and there have been beers that Ian has brought in
Not
before
sexy.
that were actually chewy. Like
Really?
there was stuff
Oh.
sticking to your teeth and stuff.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is not that
This
bad.
is
But
so
there
good.
there are some chunks in there.
This is
You know,
amazing.
with IPAs, especially with hazies, you can sometimes get some hop resin residue powder that will kind of cling to the bottom of your
Resin
glass.
is a good word.
Yeah, resin is.
Because this the viscosity of this is amazing, and like even it holds on your
coats the
lips.
whole
Like
mouth,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like
This
it's
is
really
stuck on my
something.
tongue.
Honestly,
The
you could pour
flavor.
this on pancakes, couldn't you?
So-
I mean, that's what it.
Yeah, so
literally,
there's a
it
little
feels like
This
syrupiness
is
to it.
breakfast.
Yeah,
And so if you like this and you can't find it, it's funny you say breakfast because Founders makes what's called their breakfast stout. And I
And you
would
can get
highly
that
recommend you
anywhere.
can get it. HEB a lot of times will have it or whatever.
Founders.
And their breakfast stout, and then anytime Southern Stars Buried Hatchet.
Buried Hatchet stout. Buried Hatchet comes in a little 4-pack of cans, and it's
I can't imagine this in a can.
Now they're not
It is.
brewed with coconut,
Right.
You know,
This
but
has
they're
got
going
a
to have a lot of
coconut-
the same characters.
this
Yeah.
has got a coconutty flavor to it.
Yeah.
But,
It's like a hint.
Yeah. I tell you, so I wanted to do this because we were disappointed last week because I brought in the Abyss from the
Oh, and it
chutes
was gone. Yeah.
that had just cellared a little too long, and
it
we
turned
opened it
into
up
soy
and it
sauce.
was soy sauce. So I
Wow.
was like, we got to do a really good Imperial Stout.
This is
So I've
amazing.
only had this one for like a couple of months, and I was excited to
This
bring it
is
in.
so good.
And do this. But yeah, it really is. It's like, and you know, it's one of the things that people who are not as big into craft beer may not realize is like they may have had an IPA and thought, yeah, that isn't really for me. That's not a taste I like. There are so many styles of craft beer now. You can find something that appeals to you, whether it's something like, you know, the lager that we had at the first of the show
Yeah.
today, or whether it's something dark and delicious like this,
look how it
or whether you're
pours.
like me and you almost can't get too
Crazy.
many hops in one can.
Yeah, it's like
You know,
syrupy,
there's
like thick.
there's a beer for you, and it's our job here at Smokin' and Toastin' to drink more and more so we can help you find it.
Speaking of which, that black lager
Yeah.
holds up. warm, like almost room temperature.
So you went back. You went back to the B52 phased out,
and it holds up just fine. As a matter of fact, I can taste it even
after the Imperial Stout.
which is saying something.
Which
because
is
this will
saying
knock
something.
out.
Wow.
That thing's probably about 500 calories.
Oh yeah.
Does it say?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it
Good
doesn't.
grief.
No, it doesn't say.
No, leave that little
No,
tidbit
beer
off.
would never put the calorie count on it. Unless the calorie count is close to 100, you'll never see
Yeah,
a calorie
exactly.
count on beer.
I remember actually in the early days of St. Arnold, I remember going on their website, and there was a thing you could click on about about calories in their beer, and basically it was a paragraph saying, we want you to just enjoy our
Right.
beer and not worry about the.
This is about indulgence.
Enjoy in
If
moderation.
you're
and,
worried about calories in beer, drink vodka.
basically.
Now that's a good
And
point.
drink Highway.
That's a good point. So, Highway Vodka, you guys, are you available in multiple sizes, or is this your normal?
Yeah, so we have the 750, the liter, and actually our big Texas handle is coming out this spring.
Very
Ooh,
soon.
very
Yes.
nice, very nice.
Yes.
We call it the big joint.
the Texas handle. The big,
Yeah, I like that. Texas
That's
handle.
so good. That's so good. Do you guys think? Well, I tell you what, we need to probably take a break, and we'll come back here for our final segment. But what I want to ask you before we break is, do you think that if marijuana is legalized in Texas, because it's not legal now, although it's been decriminalized pretty intensely, but do you think if it is ultimately legalized, do you think it will have an impact on the spirits industry? Will people drink less vodka, less craft beer, because it will now be legal to go to a dispensary and get something to smoke?
No.
Alcohol's been around. I don't think it's just going to
so
phase
is
out.
Yeah. And so-
Right, that's true. That's very
well,
true.
no, it's not like it's really difficult
And I
to
think
find,
they just go
right?
hand in hand.
Right,
You
right.
can't have one without the other.
Well, and you guys are great proof of that. As you,
Yesterday,
yeah, right.
I would
As
say.
you brought the hemp
Mix 'em.
together with the vodka. I don't know. Obviously, it's coming. It's coming to every state
For sure.
eventually. It's just a matter of the timing being right and all of
There
that.
was a distributor that actually, when we first were getting started, that turned us down for that very fact.
Because of the hemp.
Yes, and they viewed anything, any kind of way related to cannabis was a threat to the
I was going
spirits
to say,
industry.
did they turn you down, for quote unquote moral reasons,
That
or was
part,
it,
yeah.
or was it because of it being a threat to the spirits industry in
Both.
their mind?
Both, but like
Interesting.
primarily they thought that anything related to that plant is a threat to the spirits industry. But again, it's not like it hadn't been. It's always been there. Now you could just go
Right.
get it in the open, and it's not going to be. And they've done studies on this. It's not like it's a ton of new adapters because now that it's legal.
Right.
You go to Amsterdam, it's funny. Like, been there a couple of times.
They haven't lost any spirit sales.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Right.
and the
I
kids
think they're
there,
always
they don't.
gonna go
they
hand
don't
in
it's not a
hand.
big deal, once
Right.
they remove that whole taboo stuff out of it. It's like it's like cigarettes. Either you smoke them or you don't.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Right.
It is
if you're,
what it
if you're
is.
of age, like you either do or you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting when it does arrive, because I have a feeling that it'll wind up being very much like what the spirits industry and the craft beer industry actually is like now, where the competitive products, if you will, are actually incredibly supportive of each other for the most part, and people kind of figure out, hey, what helps you helps me, and we're all kind of doing this together. If we have an
Right.
enemy, it's the guys with the mountains on the can,
Yeah.
or whatever, you know what I
Right.
mean? So I think it's a good thing. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll come back with our final segment to thank you guys for being here. But wow, I'm still just completely wowed by this cocktail. This is just delicious. Pineapple Express, y'all. Get it on the website at highwayvodka.com and make it tonight with some Highway Vodka. We'll be right back. You
Do I
can,
have
but this-
time?
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Pineapple Express, y'all. That's all I'm saying.
I'm going there after the stout.
Yeah. Well, I finished off my my stout here, so
if you have more of that, I would like some.
Oh,
That's really,
look at that! Yeah,
I think I might have found my beer.
You might have found your beer.
I think so.
Good.
If you want to call it that.
So,
Right.
as Ian said, if you don't if you're not able to find this, look for Founder's Breakfast Stout or Southern Star's Buried Hatchet Stout. You will dig both of those.
Founder's Porter actually would probably fit that bill.
Cool.
Too.
Oh yeah, you're right. Founder's Porter is good. We had that on the show not long
You
ago.
can't miss
remember?
it. It says rich, dark, and sexy right on the
I love it.
right on the packaging.
I love it. Founders.
That's what I'm
Those guys got it together. The first thing we had from Founders that we were not crazy about was their hard seltzer. Mm-hmm. Remember? Their beers have gotten rave reviews from us. It was what prompted Ian to say in one of the better Smoking and Toasting quotes of the last couple of months, I realized I like beer.
Yeah.
I like beer.
Could you imagine a
totally
seltzer
works.
after this? It'd be like a palate cleanser.
No.
It
would be.
really would.
That's all it is.
You know, to me, a seltzer's, and I'm not like, ragging on anybody that likes them, but to me, a seltzer's what you have if you really want to start drinking, but you got just that little bit of work left to do, and so you want to kind of ease into it.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That seems appropriate for
When
that
you're
to
moving
me.
from your flavored sparkling water to
Right,
the after
right,
work.
Yeah.
A gentle migration to buzdom.
That
you
Nicely
should
played.
coin that.
That
for
is
sure.
going to be the title of my autobiography. A gentle migration to buzdom.
That is brilliant.
Fantastic. That is
was good.
fantastic.
That
Oh,
was good.
well, Ben and Cody, thank you guys so much for coming on,
problem.
sharing
Thank
Highway
you.
Vodka with us. I'm
Yes.
so thrilled you guys have done this and shared it with the world. And it is, but I didn't ask you this, but what is one of these 750 ml bottles retail for?
Typically, a
generally
Total
speaking?
Wine you'll find it for $19.99.
Oh,
You
it's
gotta
beautiful.
love that.
Yeah, it's
Isn't
beautiful.
life?
Very
Isn't this a
reasonable.
wonderful place we live? God bless
You'll
America.
get like 4 or 5 bottles at a time. Yeah.
Right. And you said you got the handle bottle coming out
Yes.
soon,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And so when do we have a date yet for your
The facility?
whiskey release?
The whiskey release definitely holidays of 2021.
Holidays of
Yeah,
2021,
probably
okay.
December. And,
Well, let's plan to have you back when you have some whiskey.
for
we can
sure.
taste.
Yes, let's do
And,
it.
And
we would- we'd
one
love to
cool
do that.
thing too, our event center hopefully going to be opening up right at the top of 2022. Like we have about 7.5 acres, beautiful property, literally 10 minutes from downtown Houston, all wooded in with
What
the
area
creek.
of town are you guys in?
So it's right off of Cullen and the Beltways, next to Adair Park.
So right like
Okay.
Pearland-ish.
Yeah, right before
Yeah.
Pearland, literally, like the last
So when you say event center, what kind of events will you be able to do there?
full blown.
Anything.
Yes, basically, perfect.
Really?
Anything.
So you're talking concerts, you're talking
Concerts.
Right.
Glamping,
tastings,
camping.
yeah,
Fashion
camping.
shows if you want to,
Sleepover.
Oh, I'm
whatever.
so down. I'm so
You know
down.
what I'm saying? It's like-
Sleepovers.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Whatever.
That's awesome. Let's do it.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Is sleepover the new word for I drank too much, so I'm going to go sleep in my
That's
Yeah,
truck?
pretty
exactly
much.
We'll have
what
a
it
space
is.
for that person.
That's exactly what it is.
You know, I used to have a camper on an old truck that I had, and I would literally, like, when I traveled long distances,
Mm-hmm.
I would literally just pull over at a truck stop or at a Walmart parking lot, crawl in the camper, and
Yeah.
go to sleep.
Hey,
You
yo.
could have
Wake
used
up
that
when I
last
was
night.
done, yeah.
This is a slight
I
detour,
was gonna
but
mention
Man.
have you seen Nomadland? Okay, it's a brilliant movie. It's not exactly a documentary because it's fictional, but it's based on true stuff. And Frances McDormand from Fargo and a number of other things is in it. It got all kinds of Oscar nominations this year, and I think it's on HBO Max because so many movies don't wind up going to the theaters these days.
Right.
Right.
They come to streaming. But fascinating for what you were talking about.
Nomadland, yeah.
Nomadland, yeah,
Nice.
Nomadland.
Mm,
And
that
it's
one, actually.
it's fascinating about people that live this very nomadic lifestyle, sort of living out of a camper or a truck with a camper on it, and what their
Going from
lives are
place
like.
to place.
Fascinating stuff.
A lot of YouTubers do that, like mountain
Yeah,
bike YouTubers,
absolutely,
and
yeah.
adventure style YouTubers. And
Yeah,
stuff.
they just get out there and it's
conversion van and go with it.
You know, it's not necessarily a glamorous lifestyle the way it's portrayed in the movie, but the characters are so interesting.
And that's a nice chapter for your
Yeah.
book of life to do that.
Right.
when you get
For
time.
sure.
Your
I
slow
like that.
migration.
My slow migration to Buzzdom. Chapter 22,
Can't.
Nomad Land.
Right.
I like it. Thank you guys so much for being on the program.
Thank you so much.
Now, Ian, I would like you to recognize something. You have accused me on a number of occasions of being a man who knows how to hold a grudge.
Yes.
So I'm proud to announce that next week on this program, Smokin' and Toastin', we will be joined by cocktail expert and bar owner extraordinaire, Peter Clifton. Because you may remember Peter was a no-show when he was scheduled for the show.
I do, yes. On Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day. And we
Of
were doing
all
cocktails
days.
for
On
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
That was the show. And he was a no-show, and let's just say I'm putting it behind me. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm becoming a bigger person. That's chapter 17 in my book. What was the title again?
The Gentle Migration.
The Gentle Migration.
Chapter 17
Chapter
is called
17.
Becoming a More Beautiful Man.
Becoming a more beautiful man. No, but in all seriousness, Peter's coming back to make great cocktails
That'll
for us
be
next
awesome.
week.
He
So-
was fun the first time.
Yeah, he
was
really
on.
was. He's a genuinely nice dude, and I don't know what wires got crossed last time, but I am learning to let bygones be bygones.
Must be a
And you know what?
Scorpio holding those
Here's what
grudges.
I've learned. As I have grown in my gentle migration towards Buzzdom,
They
I
take
have
it
learned.
from you gotta
and-
coin it.
I have a million
yeah,
of them.
you got to do it. So, I have learned that if you, like me, are looking to grow as a human being, that finding a way to allow bygones to be bygones is always easier when great drinks are involved.
Yes.
Amen.
And so we will see you here next week on Smokin' and Toastin' for that. Thank you guys
Thank
again
you,
so
man.
much.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your great success with Highway Vodka.
Appreciate
and we
it.
can't wait to taste your whiskey.
Yes.
And I'm
Awesome.
so making this tonight at
Okay,
home.
I'll give you the
Oh my God.
secrets.
Oh my God. Pineapple Express.
Woo! Highway vodka.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
Y'all are drinking. Cheers.